This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 704 of Horse Tip Daily. A different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you, one day at a time. Today's tip is brought to you by EquestrianCollections.com. Hi, Coach Jen here, and thanks for tuning in to Horse Tip Daily. Today's tip is an excerpt from thehorse.com's weekly horse health report on the Horses in the Morning Show, episode 516. Thehorse.com digital editor Michelle Anderson and Dr. David Horohov of the Gluck Center at University of Kentucky joined the Hit'em Gang to talk about infectious diseases. As you might suspect, this tip does have a yuck rating of medium. You have been warned. But before we get to today's tip, let's hear from today's sponsor.
Hi, Glenn here, founder of the Horse Radio Network, and I am with Debbie from Equestrian Collections with Equestrian Collections Product of the Week.
This week, I'm going to feature a particular item, the Iridian Ladies Chinchilla Fleece Crossover Turtleneck. But what I really want to talk about is the entire chinchilla line. It's getting into autumn and cooler weather, and I'm telling you, this is the softest material you will ever put on. And another thing I like about this particular line is it's different. It's not just a turtleneck like your regular turtleneck. This one has a crossover so that it comes down to a little bit of a V, and it makes it so much more comfortable. It's not always hitting your chin. And it's very, very comfortable and warmer than you would imagine. It's very light, but it's also very warm. It comes in a quarter zip, and it comes in the crossover, and it comes in a regular. But the way it's spelled, when you go on the website, it's Chinchilla, Chinchillaaaah. It's the perfect name because chinchilla itself is so soft. It's for chilly weather, and when you put it on, it makes you go, ah. So look for the Chinchilla Fleece Turtleneck.
That's put out by Iridian, and it looks like it comes in a variety of colors as well.
It does. A really pretty blue and a really pretty gray, and I think it also comes in a red color.
Yeah, Rudy. Yep, that's terrific. Well, very good. Well, you can find all of the Iridian products as well as the Chinchilla line at EquestrianCollections.com.
And we have them in stock, so we can ship them out the day you order.
This product highlight was produced by the Horse Radio Network. Listen to all of our shows at horseradionetwork.com.
Well, we've been very busy here at the Horse and thehorse.com, and we have a lot of really cool things we're covering between now and the holiday season. This is kind of the convention time of year for all the vets who, it's after the show season, it's before breeding and foaling season, so this is the time they're all going and getting their continuing education, and we are following them. Right now I'm at the International Conference on Equine Infectious Disease here in Lexington, Kentucky. I'm not in Oregon like I usually am. Next week I'm headed to the Laminitis Conference, which is in California, and then we have the American Association of Equine Practitioners seminar in Anaheim, so really busy between now and Christmas.
I'd say.
Yeah. And
so now you're at the Equine Infectious Disease Conference. That is a place that I do not want to be, I have to admit.
Yeah. You would be down at the Starbucks drinking coffee, Glenn.
And Jamie, she would go home a nervous wreck. She would go home thinking her horses had everything that ever existed in an infectious disease.
Yes, and I was kind of hoping she'd be here to be part of this conversation today, but maybe we're saving her from it because I deal with this stuff every day, and I'm having nightmares at night of my horses gutted on the pathologist's lab floor after sitting through these sessions. So it's a little traumatic, even if you have a tough stomach.
Well, why don't you introduce your guest?
Okay, well, it's Dr. David Horohov. Is he on the phone with us?
Yes, I am.
Hi, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. Am I being a little dramatic, maybe?
No, I'm going to try to awaken you from your nightmare, maybe, and show you that there's actually better dreams ahead, perhaps.
Thank you.
Good.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Makes me feel better.
So Dr. Horohov is with the Gluck Center here in Lexington at University of Kentucky, and he is the chairman for the committee that organized this event, and it is really a huge global event. So what is the purpose of having this meeting?
Well, the purpose is it's a research meeting that involves research scientists and veterinarians from around the world who have an interest in equine infectious disease, and primarily in learning more about these diseases and finding ways to deal with them so they're not the nightmares that you described.
So what kind of disease has been at the forefront of this meeting? What have we been talking about the most?
So we probably have still a great deal of interest in equine herpes virus, and particularly in the form of myeloencephalitis. That is still certain myeloencephalopathy, which is still certainly one of the great black boxes that we have right now that we're trying to better understand. This is a virus that typically affects almost all horses, and outside of when they're very young, and then it's a respiratory disease on pregnant mares. It can cause abortion, but we've got a pretty good handle on that now. But this neurologic syndrome that we see is still something that just we really don't understand, and we certainly think more work is needed in this area. So it is one of the nightmares, I'm afraid, and it's one that's not going to go away very soon.
No.
We also have, sorry, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead if you have more.
Well, and we also have, this meeting has a very strong emphasis in parasitology as well, and parasite control. And I know it's something that the average horse owner doesn't think very much about anymore, and something because we've had wonderful drugs that for many, many years have been very successful in preventing or treating parasitism in our horses, and so it becomes very much a non-issue for many horse owners. Unfortunately, over the last number of years now, we've been having more problems with parasites, and primarily because the drugs have stopped working. And so that's certainly a very important focus of the meeting now. Why has that happened, and what can we do to stop this trend?
And I have to say, as a horse owner, sitting in and listening to these conversations and these lectures, I'm more confused than I was to begin with on deworming my horse. But it's really reassuring to know that there's so many people who are studying this and trying to find positive solutions for our animals. And I think that's something that we'll try to do at the Horse and thehorse.com is really track down some good advice from coming out of these meetings on how to take care of our horses and create a positive deworming program. Is that one of the goals of this meeting?
Yeah, very
to help?
much, yes. Yeah, very much so. And I want to come back to the fact that this is a global issue, and that's part of the reason at this international conference that we address this topic, because it's something that was seen in Europe fairly on, and it's been seen in Australia, and it certainly is being seen now in the United States. And so it's certainly going to require that we rethink the way we've been treating horses with most anthelmintics. A lot of times treatment has been based sort of on the calendar. It's the spring, it's time to deworm your horse. It's in the fall, do it again. Now we're becoming a little more strategic in our thinking, and not every horse needs to be dewormed, and it may not be necessary to deworm on any type of a schedule like that. So we're looking at sort of a need basis for when the horse needs to be dewormed, and that's basically by measuring the amount of parasite eggs the horse is actually shedding, which is an indication of what that horse's parasite burden is, and only treating those horses that need to be treated rather than the whole herd as we have done in the past.
I gotta say though, the thing that scares me about that is, you know, and I'm your average horse owner too, and a horse husband in this case. The thing that scares me about that is we have enough people who probably aren't giving any kind of worm medication to begin with, and then a very large group of people who are only doing it because it's easy to do on a certain schedule. And I'm afraid if we get away from that, they're just going to go, oh, the hell with it, I'm not going to do any then. That's my biggest fear.
That is a concern, and when in Europe, particularly in Denmark, when they went to a prescription basis only for anthelmintic usage, there was a great deal of concern about that, and indeed, the amount of the anthelmintic that was being used was reduced, and as a result of which, one began to see more problems with parasites in horses than we've seen before. The good news, though, is that once people began to recognize that there was a need to adopt a strategy that would keep these drugs effective and longer use, they've been able to make great strides in terms of keeping those drugs on the market there and in a way that can be used. And the horse owners themselves soon begin to realize that, that this is an important component of the horse health program. And so I think there will be a bit of a transition period, and I think there will be a bit of a time when people are going to be somewhat confused by what's going on. But the key is that, we really want to keep the owner and the veterinarian in the equation so that the best thing possible is done for the horse, and that's what we always strive for, of course.
Okay.
Now, you mentioned Denmark, and that this is a global conference. Where else are our speakers coming from?
Yeah, we have. When I checked with the folks at the Hilton this morning to see how things were going, and they've done a great job here, so supporting us in this conference, they remarked that this is the most international meeting they've ever hosted here. We have speakers from North America, from South America, of course. We have speakers from Europe and all parts of Europe, so from Scandinavia down to Italy and the Mediterranean. We even have folks from Iceland who are there, and the Icelandic horse is a very interesting horse indeed, and their contributions are greatly appreciated here. We have folks from Africa, South Africa in particular, and we have a significant contribution of folks from the Middle East as well. And then, of course, a very large component from Asia and Japan, and then our colleagues from Australia have also joined us. And in short, the easiest way to think about it, Michelle, is wherever there's a horse, there's going to be people there. Horses are global animals. This is a global research effort, and so we have people from all around the world. Maybe not from Antarctica. I don't think I've met anyone from there yet.
But it has been just really fascinating to me to see all of these researchers from all over the world coming together, really to help make the lives of our horses and improve the horse industry and make it all better. How do you see this event helping our average horse owner?
Yeah, so that's a really good question because, sometimes people think we're just sort of a bunch of scientists here who kind of do science for the sake of science, as it were. But in reality, our ultimate goal is to improve the health of the horse. And so the topics at the meeting range across the board from, the basic biology of the disease that we're interested in. Herpes encephalomyelopathy, for example. Why does it happen? What are the causes of it? What can we do to better understand the mechanism of the horse that becomes affected? And some of the work is actually done on a much more applied basis. And so we have a number of talks talking about new diagnostics. And diagnostics are a very exciting area of research these days. And as you know, the quicker we can identify a problem in the horse, the quicker we can begin to address that problem and to stop that disease from spreading, for example. So a very important line of research is done in terms of developing new and better and more accurate diagnostic tests. And then, of course, there's a lot of emphasis on therapeutics and the development of therapeutics and making therapeutics more effective. As I mentioned, in the case of the anthelmintics, we are concerned that there is signs of increasing resistance in many of the parasites that we deal with. And likewise, there is resistance to some of the antibiotics that we now use in our horses. And so how can we use these in an effective and, if you will, strategic way as well so that we can prolong their use, as well as identifying new and novel therapeutics. And, we used to say in the old days that all of these sessions are always about pharmaceuticals, but in reality now therapeutics have a much broader reach in terms of the different types of fields that come into play. And so it's not just what drugs to use, but other approaches as well. And then, of course, the ultimate goal, which for someone like myself and my research interest in immunology, is how do we prevent these diseases in the horse? And our emphasis is on vaccines, and so we certainly have a lot of talks of people talking about new vaccines or improved vaccines for the prevention of disease. But even here again, now we're taking a more global look, if you will, at the whole concept, or a more holistic look at the problems, and suggesting that it may not just be a vaccination, but there may be management strategies. A really interesting session, I don't know if you attended yesterday, had to do with the role that the gut, the normal gut microbiota, or the microorganisms that live in the gut, play in maintaining the health of the horse. And the effects that diet and certainly antibiotic treatments can have on that can certainly affect the overall well-being of the horse beyond what the initial intended disease may have been that we were trying to treat. And so it's really given us a much broader view of looking at, again, a more holistic approach of treating the animal and not just a particular disease or a disease symptom.
Well, and I have to say, from my perspective, sitting through these sessions, some of them have been extremely high-level talks, and then some of the stuff is very practical, like with the parasitology, the simple advice of keeping our horses' paddocks and stalls clean and picking up manure and reducing exposure to parasites is very practical and useful information. So it's been really interesting for me, and hopefully we can get that information out to all of our horse.com users so they can use some of this information as well. And Dr. Horohov, this is the 9th conference like this. How often do these take place?
Well, I can honestly say not often enough. The last conference, the 8th International Conference on Equine Infectious Disease, actually occurred in 1998, and it was in Dubai at the United Arab Emirates. The meetings themselves actually stretch back to the mid-1960s, but they've been held fairly irregularly, and perhaps for a variety of reasons. But one of the goals of this particular conference is that we now have regular meetings, and the pace of science right now is so fast, and unfortunately, the equally fast is the pace of disease, and infectious diseases in particular. As an example, our last meeting was in 1998. What hadn't happened at that time and then subsequently happened was so important in the United States, West Nile virus.
Yeah.
When we went to that meeting in 98, no one saw West Nile on the horizon. Nobody thought about things like West Nile. We had West Nile virus. Again, herpes encephalomyelopathy, not much talk about it. I went back and looked at the old program, not a single talk on that particular topic. Now, significant amount of work has been done because of what's been happening. So we need to have these meetings much more frequently. And so one of the goals that we set for this conference is to set the stage for the next conference. And indeed, I can announce that we're going to have the next conference in 2016 in Buenos Aires. So I hope you'll join us, Michelle.
Okay, well, I'll see if I can get that one on the schedule.
Can I ask about one thing?
Sure.
And this is one that's near and dear to me, and my listeners will know what I'm going to ask about before I even say it, because I've been affected by it, and that's Lyme disease. And is it on the radar at all with you guys?
So we have a session that was called Emerging and Re-Emerging Diseases, and Lyme disease is an interesting one because in a way, at least we know it exists and we know it's been a problem and we frequently associate it with our pet dogs, but we never really give it much thought for other species as well. And so, we would classify that as actually as a sort of a re-emerging disease, something that we knew about but we didn't give much thought to. And yet, here we have a problem. And so it is something that, we would call on our horizon and something that we're aware of, but it's certainly an area that needs much more work. There's no question about that.
Yeah, and it was actually a bad year for Lyme, especially in the Northeast and Central states because the tick population was so high this year.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, good.
So Glenn, before we go, you have to ask me what the grossest thing I've seen so far has been.
Do I have to ask you that?
I saw this, and I thought of you. I even took a picture of it that I can send you.
Well, I don't really need the picture. You're pretty good at your graphic descriptions. All right, so anybody that's eating breakfast, put your breakfast down or turn your radio off for about 15 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay, so we have seen pictures of parasites. We've seen pictures of intestines. We've seen pictures of lung abscesses. The most disgusting thing I've seen was this funny photo of a cake that some vet students had made of a horse's head, and the horse had strangles, and it was vanilla pudding coming out of the abscesses of the throat of the strangled horse cake. Did you see that?
I have to say, Michelle, that was certainly a very creative use of pastry, to be certain. And I wish we had thought of that earlier when we had our dinner last night. We could have actually set up a whole dessert board, that would have been full of interesting equine problems.
It would have been great with Halloween right around the corner.
You think anybody ate the yellow part?
I think they went for that first, is what they told us.
Well, thank you very much. I know you're very busy with this conference, and I appreciate you taking this time out this morning to talk to us. And I'm headed over to catch some more sessions myself here pretty soon. So thank you again. It's been a great meeting.
Sure, Michelle. I look forward to seeing you in the hallways, right?
Okay. Thank you.
Doctor.
Right.
Appreciate you being on. Well, Michelle, we are going to not see you next week. I guess in 2 weeks we'll try and catch up with you wherever you are in the world.
Yeah, and I will have just returned from the laminitis conference, so I think we'll have some really great information coming out of that. So look forward to it. If people have questions, send them in. It's our chance to get more laminitis information. I know that people are hungry for that.
Can I recommend some Pepto-Bismol before you go into your next session? And just really quickly, keep looking on thehorse.com for some.
Well, there you go. To listen to more of thehorse.com's tips, just go to horsetipdaily.com and go to the expert drop-down menu on the left. If you love listening to the Horses in the Morning gang putting in their 2 cents on horse health topics, tune in to Horses in the Morning at horsesinthemorning.com for your daily fix of up-to-the-minute horse health information. You can also go to thehorse.com, where you will find the motherlode of horse health information covering pretty much every topic imaginable. Don't forget to support our sponsors here on Horse Tip Daily because they make these podcasts possible. Today's podcast has been brought to you by EquestrianCollections.com. Just like Horse Tip Daily brings the whole world of equine knowledge to you, Equestrian Collections brings the whole world of equine shopping online to you. Check them out today at EquestrianCollections.com, and while you're there, tell them Coach Jen sent you. Please stop by the Horse Tip Daily Facebook page and let us know what you think of the tips you hear on the show. It's also a great place to tell us about topics you'd like to hear us cover on the show. You can subscribe to all the great shows on the Horse Radio Network through iTunes or Zune and get your horse podcasts automatically downloaded to your iPod, Zune, or MP3 player. You can also listen to the shows right on Facebook. The player's right there every day. I'll be back again tomorrow with another new expert and a different horse tip. Until then, go ride your horse! The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements of guests or their opinions. Use your own judgment when listening to the tips provided by the experts on Horse Tip Daily.